I'm Filipov from PracticeGuitarNow.com, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to improve your legato playing. But in this video I'm not going to give you any exercises to practice because you can already find exercises to play anywhere. What I'm going to talk about are the most common mistakes that I see guitarists make all the time when they practice legato that prevent them from making any real progress with all the exercises that they have found and are practicing. By becoming aware of these mistakes, addressing them and fixing them, you'll have a much easier time improving your legato technique in general and getting better at playing all of the exercises and licks that you want to learn. The first and most common mistake relating to playing legato is not thinking in terms of maximizing the articulation you can produce from each note. Now, I know this sounds very counterintuitive because everybody talks about legato being a very smooth, very fluid and flowing kind of sound, and in fact it is that. But because of the fact that hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides, the techniques used in legato playing, are already inherently much weaker in their maximum articulation than the notes you can produce with the pick, if you don't take the time to articulate these notes, hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides properly, your legato is going to sound much weaker and much sloppier than it should sound. A common example of this would be not pulling the string down to perform pull-offs, but instead lifting the finger up into the air. And the reason why that's a problem is because by lifting the finger up into the air, you do not do anything to sustain the note. In fact, you only help the string to stop sustaining the note. But when you pull the string down, you're essentially plucking the string with your fretting hand finger, helping the note to continue ringing. So that helps your sustain and it helps the articulation and the volume of the notes. Here's a quick demonstration. If I play something like this, just these three notes on the G string, and if I do the pull-offs by lifting the fingers up into the air, as soon as I start to speed up, the notes start to become weaker and weaker. That's pretty weak. But now, if I start pulling the string down to do each pull-off, then it doesn't matter how fast I play, the notes are still going to be very powerful and very articulate, and very smooth at the same time. So by making the small change of pulling the string down towards the floor instead of lifting the finger up into the air for pull-offs, you immediately make your legato playing much better and more articulate while still maintaining the same even and fluid and flowing sound that legato is supposed to have. And this leads me directly into my next point, which is about the articulation of the picking hand. Now, I know this sounds strange to hear me talk about the picking hand articulation in the video about legato, but it's actually very important for helping you make your legato more articulate. And what I mean is this: when you start playing legato, typically you're going to start by picking the first note with the pick. And it will help you greatly to make that first note as articulate and as powerful as you can, because it will then make the job for the fretting hand a whole lot easier. When you start playing a phrase by hitting the first note as hard as you can, it then doesn't take nearly as much effort for the fretting hand to play hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides and achieve that smooth sound that legato is supposed to have, but still have the articulation and the power each note needs in order to sound good. And don't worry, just because you hit the notes hard does not mean that you're losing the overall effect of legato, because since you're playing most of the notes with hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides, the overall effect to the listener is still going to be that fluid and flowing sound that legato is supposed to have. So focus on the picking hand as well as the fretting hand as you practice legato, and you will notice a big improvement in how your legato sounds overall. Now, with all this talk about articulation and making the pull-offs louder and hitting the strings harder, you may be thinking right now that you need to go out and buy a whole bunch of finger strengthening gadgets and just make your fingers stronger so you can press down on the notes harder and have more strength for legato. Let me stop you right there, because that leads me into my next mistake and misconception that people have about legato playing. And that is that legato is all about strength of your fingers. It's actually not. Yes, you need some strength to perform pull-offs and hammer-ons, and you need some strength to articulate the strings with the pick, but you can develop virtually all the strength you need for legato simply by playing guitar regularly. That is because articulating the notes in both hands is a lot more about correct technique with doing the motions than it is about raw and brute strength. If you go out and buy a whole bunch of finger exercise gadgets and just try to make your fingers as strong as possible, but you never learn the proper motions for pull-offs, for example, and you continue lifting the finger up into the air instead of pulling the string down, you're always going to have a hard time with making your legato sound good because you never practice the correct movements. So you will get much more from your practice time if you simply focus on mastering the correct movements needed for legato playing, and as a result of that, you will be spending more time playing guitar and thus will develop all the strength you need to do the movements with enough articulation to make your legato sound very good. So just keep in mind that good legato playing is mostly about correct technique, and very rarely are problems with legato playing caused by lack of strength. And the final point for this video, which is also a very common source of problems guitarists have when they try to play legato, which is them becoming tired when they're fretting hand, especially when they try to play fast or when they try to play for an extended period of time. Now, commonly guitarists think, as I mentioned earlier, that this is caused by lack of strength or endurance in their hand. And so that is another place where the myth about finger strength being correlated with good legato playing comes from. Now, the reason why you become tired when you play legato isn't caused by lack of strength or lack of endurance. Instead, it's caused by excessive tension accumulation throughout your arm. When you start playing, you're completely relaxed, comparatively speaking, because you have not yet played any notes and therefore haven't used any muscular effort to play anything yet. But as you play more and more notes, you gradually accumulate higher and higher state of tension throughout your arm. And unless you release that tension at some point, eventually your arm will become so constricted by it that you will no longer be able to move, or at the very least you'll become so fatigued and so tired from all that additional effort you exert onto playing each note that you will be forced to stop playing. This is very similar to breathing in and breathing out air. When you inhale, your lungs contract and you need that oxygen to breathe, just like you need muscular tension to play notes. But you can't hold the air in forever. Unless you eventually exhale, you'll just pass out because you will not be able to hold the air in your lungs forever. Same thing happens when you play guitar. If you stay in that state of tension for a long time, eventually you will have no choice but to stop because your muscles will no longer be able to contract to play notes continuously. So the solution to this problem is actually quite simple. There's really no magic and no trick to it. As you keep playing, and when you notice yourself accumulating excessive tension, simply remind yourself to relax and you'll be able to continue playing longer than before and won't become tired as quickly. It will take some time for this to become a subconscious habit, but you will get there as you keep focusing on this throughout many practice sessions. So that's it for this video. Make sure to apply these concepts into your practicing on a regular basis and you will see a big difference in terms of how your legato feels and sounds. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button below to like the video. If you're not yet a subscriber, subscribe to the channel and you'll get regular notifications of all my future videos that I post regularly on how to improve your guitar playing and practicing. And if you want even more free resources on how to become a better guitar player and improve your practicing habits, go to my website, practiceguitarnow.com, where there is a lot more content, a lot more videos, articles, and other resources I provide, all for free, to help you become a better guitar player. I'll see you there soon. From the strings like this, if you play... If you don't develop your pick, control over the pick enough, what happens is that the hand sort of goes all over the place like this, and this creates sloppy noise, and your upstrokes and your downstrokes again are uneven. So this is something you need to work on. And to help with this problem, there's another exercise in your handout under the same chapter of building articulation with picking, which goes like this.